Hey, what's up everyone? So this is going to be the 77th opening that I'd like to share with you, which is none other than the Seeley variation. So Seeley variation, essentially I named it after Mr. Ben Seeley of the United States of America, mainly because I've seen him play this opening. He's probably one of the first few players I've seen play this variation. So of course, definitely thereafter I've seen lots of Japanese and even European players actually play this opening. But I'll just name it after him since he's a double world champion, and of course, this variation is fairly interesting. So let's jump right into the sequence. So we have black playing f5. Basically, it's the typical diagonal opening leading up to almost like a sailboat, but instead of sailboat, we're going to Rose-v-Toth. So this opening is kind of like a spin-off or an extension of the earlier 76 opening in Rose-v-Toth. So typically, black would play e2, being the best. So white would then, instead of playing the best sequence over here at c4, which is the standard sequence for Rose-v-Toth, we basically play a feeding move to c3, and of course, more often than not, black would not, ignore this move. It's a very easy, straightforward jump in. It's the best move, occupying the center. Won this flip, almost too good to be rejected. So thereafter, black jumps in, and white plays c6. So usually, if you look at this shape, it almost seems disadvantageous for white for sure. So you definitely lose a slight advantage because you're occupying the left front, the bottom front, and almost most of the right front. So in terms of all the four frontages, you're occupying probably all three of them, almost all three of them. In fact, with the exception that now it's black's turn to move. So typically, black would choose to play the g4, which is a fairly straightforward cutout. Then white would then jump into d2. Black, if you know the best move, you probably play the g6. If you don't know the best move, chances are you might look at playing into c1 because it's an edge move. And then, there are opportunities for white to choose to play the f2 or f3, f3 being like a direct formation of a block. And you realize that when you form like such a kind of solid square in the center box, it almost forces black to kind of do awkward diagonal cuts whereby these kind of pocket of spaces or moves show up for white to play into. And of course, another approach would be to play f2, kind of hope that black will probably move towards c2 to try to establish this d3 disc to kind of regroup to f3. You can do like a further prevention by either playing d1 or f1. Over here, it seems like d1 is a slightly better move, probably due to the follow-up. d1, e1, followed by g5. g5 meaning a diagonal cut. At the same time, you're momentarily controlling this vertical line and this horizontal line, so fairly interesting. And then, of course, black, in order to kind of access the chase after the move at f3, you can either choose to play the b5, create that d3 disc, so that you can chase after that. Of course, either way, you're still going to be slower than white to kind of regroup there. So thereafter, the follow-up will probably just mean that, you're kind of veering off to the left side just to kind of exchange tempo or force white to play into that shape earlier on. So I would say that this opening is probably suitable for advanced players and above. And yeah, basically, if black knows the best move over here and plays this move, I would say that white has quite a few options to play. It's fairly counterintuitive for black to kind of do a chip off this early and with this many pockets of spaces. So at the same time, white, you need to be smart about it. You can choose quite a few options. You can form the block just like what you mentioned earlier. When you form this block, you kind of create this awkward situation whereby black doesn't have a nice kind of space to go into over here, and at the same time, black essentially has to do a loud cut perhaps, just to gain access into g5 or g3, just to kind of regroup and centralize. At the same time, you can choose to play like an edge kind of approach towards the right edge. So black, white kind of exchange, and then you kind of move into the edge. So this might be too loud because you allow black to kind of regroup immediately. So you kind of just go on the outer edge to kind of approach the inner sector. So interestingly, if you observe black jumping in with the best move, you have a very nice regroup move in a sense that you are controlling this kind of mini diagonal between d6, this all the way through to f4. So black does not have a nice move here, and this would then be kind of interestingly too loud. Intuitively, black might want to just cut back into the center. White can then form this kind of the usual kind of shape that is not really recommended, but somehow it seems to work out for this opening. So it could actually throw like a very surprising shape to black. And of course, if black were to know the book, play this. Interestingly, this is not the best move because this is poison, so black would then be kind of forced to form that unbalanced edge that allows white to kind of do a stoner trap. So you can kind of see the merits of this opening because it gives whites lots of options to play with, and also the follow-up is actually quite nice for white in terms of setting up traps on the edge. So I think this opening, it's something that is not named as a standard kind of opening within the Othello Quest app or the Zebra or the Rose-v-Toth common Othello apps. So yeah, hopefully this opening interests you, and you can probably use it even for actual gameplay. So especially for players who play the diagonal opening, this could be an interesting one for you.